A few years ago, while living in Kenya, I had the opportunity to hike Mount Kenya. It was 4 days, one summit attempt, 16,355 feet at Point Lenana. On the day we were to summit, we left around 3 a.m. in complete darkness. All we had were these headlamps. Not floodlights, not a well-lit trail map, just enough light to see the footsteps of the person in front of us and the next few steps ahead. That was it. I remember being frustrated with the guide's pace at first. It felt unnecessarily slow, almost meandering, step after step after step. All I could see was the guy's feet directly in front of me through the light of my headlamp. We could be making better time than this, but somewhere along the climb, as the elevation increased and the breathing became harder, I started realizing something. The guide wasn't slow, the guide was wise. Because the higher we climbed, the more I appreciated the restraint of those earlier steps. The pace felt inconvenient at the bottom, but became necessary near the summit. Sometimes patience is disciplined pacing. As we were about to reach the summit, it all began to make sense. I think about how often I want clarity for the entire path before I'm willing to trust the process. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." I usually want God to explain the whole route. Instead, he often gives us enough light for the next step. Oddly enough, the hardest part for me wasn't summit day. It was day one. On the first stretch to camp, I pushed myself to keep pace with some other guys in the group. I wanted to stay in the conversation, stay competitive, keep up. The problem, my stride wasn't built for their pace. If you know me, I'm not really tall, so my stride isn't that big. And by the time we arrived at camp, I had a headache, I didn't feel like eating anything, and was dealing probably with some minor altitude sickness. Looking back, I nearly sabotaged the entire experience on the altar of comparison. That thought has stayed with me for years because I think many of us do this spiritually, emotionally, professionally, even relationally. We exhaust ourselves trying to match the speed of people we were never designed to imitate. Different callings, different preparation, different pacing, different assignments. And yet we still convince ourselves that faithfulness means matching someone else's stride. It doesn't. Isaiah 40:31, "But they who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." I want to add something to that. Sometimes I'm so weary, I'm crawling, and I feel like that. But the Lord's still there with me. Patience is not passivity. Sometimes patience is simply trusting the pace God has given you. Sometimes maturity looks less like sprinting and more like steady endurance. Not 100 meters, but a marathon. The next morning, and after sleeping in our tent, I felt completely different, felt great. We continued the climb, eventually reaching the summit just as the sun began breaking over the horizon. It was cold and windy, but completely worth it. After we summited and celebrated together and took pictures, I asked the guide to show me the route we had taken in the dark because I genuinely couldn't find it. I looked around, I looked over the edge, I looked around the corner of where we were at, and I just couldn't see it. He pointed toward this narrow trail cut into the side of the mountain, maybe 18 to 24 inches wide in some places, along this sharp incline. At first I thought he was kidding. I was like, what? He wasn't. There's absolutely no chance I would have willingly chosen that path on my own had I seen it beforehand. In full daylight, I wouldn't have taken that path, much less in the dark. And honestly, I think there's some mercy in that. Sometimes we get to see a well-lit path stretching far ahead, but there are also seasons where the only thing we're given is enough light for one faithful step. Psalm 119, 105, many of us know this verse. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. I want you to notice the order. A lamp to my feet and then a light to my path. Sometimes we're given the strength of the light. Other times, simply the strength of the headlamp. You might be asking why I'm telling you this, because many of us are frustrated by how little we can currently see. We want floodlights. God often gives lamps. We want the 5-year plan. God often gives the next faithful step. And maybe that's because if we saw the whole climb, the whole cost, the whole stretch of uncertainty ahead of us, we might never begin walking at all. Some paths are illuminated all at once. Others slowly unfold over time. This one, for me, unfolded by degrees, step by step, light by light. 3 things this hike taught me. 1, you're built for a certain pace, not laziness, not passivity, but pace matters. There's a difference between intentional movement and anxious striving. Trying to keep up with everyone else nearly took me out on day 1. I needed to control what I could control and pace the way I needed to pace. Number 2, good guides matter more than visible plans. There are seasons where clarity comes from seeing far ahead, and there are other seasons where clarity comes from trusting the one leading you. Those are not the same thing. Sometimes the light is strong enough for the landscape. Sometimes it's only strong enough for your footing and your next step. Either way, it's enough. And number 3, steady faithfulness usually beats dramatic intensity. Simple steps, consistent rhythm, patient endurance gets us to the summit. That's often people, not through emotional sprints. 2 questions to ask you today. Where in your life are you exhausting yourself trying to keep pace with someone you were never called to imitate? Question number 2, where might God be inviting you to trust the guide, trust the pace, and simply take the next step in front of you? Here's something I would recommend. Journal through these questions. Write down your answers instead of just rushing past them. And one thing I want you to also think about doing is share your answers to these questions with someone. Ask them what they think, and then hold you accountable for these steps you want to take. Invite them along for the journey. Maybe see if they would be interested in answering those same questions. Thank you for joining. Have a great day. Take care.